Hello, my name's Colette. I'd like to talk to you today about one of my books called Menopause, An Actual and Spiritual Journey. This was a book that's very close to my heart because it tracks my own menopause in a natural and spiritual way, as it says on the cover. Um, and I did enjoy writing it. Whether I enjoy going through it or not is another thing. But I made the best of my menopause, and this is the book that John Hunt Publishers allowed to be in print because it's a wee bit off the wall, and it's certainly going through menopause with nothing really than mantras, meditation, and mindset, kind of a bit of mindfulness thrown in. So, to explain a wee bit about it, my background is shamanic, and I follow the rituals and the ways of doing things of the shaman. And because I've done so many other things in a natural and spiritual way, as I was approaching menopause, I thought, well, I want to do this that way too. Now, I also am a non-practicing pharmacist, so I know all the kind of background to the medical side of it. And not to put pharmaceutical industry down or anything, but everything has side effects. And if you need medication and you need things for your bones or to help you through things, that's fine. It's just I wanted to do it with nothing. And because I wanted to test out maybe how women went through menopause very much in ancient days or the way that they just handled it, I also decided to do it without any helpful herbs. Um, I basically was just going to do it as taken every day it comes, looking at a medicine wheel spread to identify which area that I was deficient in that day and working with it, working with the way I felt, doing things that would help the way I felt and various symptoms, and using mantras and meditation to help that as well. Um, it was the book was a help, believe it or not, as I was writing it because it made me focus more on how I felt, what was going on. But there's two levels to look at the book. Uh, it could be read just as my stories of menopause, and I like to write with a high degree of humour. So there's quite a lot of fun in there. I mean, one of the titles is called Sweaty Betty Chin, Hair and Belly, Swelly Belly. So you can see there's an edge to it that is a wee bit of fun. But there's also the serious side of, that although the titles are like that, how you can feel when you're maybe all swollen up and how you can feel when you're sweating, when you're just ready to go out. And then there's the other things like the irritability, mood swings, all sorts of things, aggression, weepiness, all those things are in there. Even empty nest syndrome, which tends to hit at the same time as women are going through menopause. So there's a lot in there that is just my story. And I I'm very, very honest in my story. I didn't think there was a point of doing it if I wasn't going to say, this was how I felt. Even when I was talking about lackluster libido chapter and a wee bit about Daniel Craig in there as well. This is a book for women to help them understand what they're going through and go through it in the most natural way possible. So there's the funny stories in there, but there also at the end of each chapter, there's a focus mantra and a meditation. And as I say, it helps because I'm asking people to look at how they're feeling every day. There's a medicine wheel spread, which you can do with just how you're feeling, or you can use oracle cards or tarot with it. But you don't need any cards at all if you just still work with the medicine wheel. And it'll really help you. My husband said it's a book that should be given to all men and that are partners of menopausal women so that they understand them more. I was running it past my husband as I was writing it, and he actually understood it more from the book than if he was just observing. So I actually encourage men, partners, sons, fathers, you name it, to read this book to understand how a woman can change very much with the change. and that is always going to be there. That there's moments where it's going to be hard. The person that you think you know is changing. She may be feeling that everything's going wrong for her. She might be feeling, where do I fit in now? She might be mourning the lack of fertility, that she can't have children anymore. She might be needing her mindset twisted to being, you know, look what you can achieve when you're through this, and you've got the energy, and you can still be a version of yourself that is absolutely fantastic. And there's that in it too. And the last few chapters are about how to kind of be what we call a grandmother, which is wise woman. I don't necessarily like the word crone, just because I think it brings out, you know, with our culture now, we see crone as you know, the ugly witch out of Snow White. And crone was never like that. It was the aged wise women. So I prefer the Native American term of grandmother. And there's chapters about, you know, how you can diversify into all sorts of things that you wanted. You know, you may not have a sense of, I'm a mother anymore. You're grandmother to almost all of creation, and that can come out in many ways. I actually really got interested in my garden. I became very political, actually, and I've watched a lot of women that maybe didn't have a voice when they were younger. Once they're through Moonpause, they soar, and they go and try and rule the world, and it's fantastic watching them. And it's also about, you know, living in a modern world and going through Moonpause. You know, like my mum and my friends' mums, they all looked very similar in their 50s and 60s. You know, back then it was like all sorts of wee coats and, you know, all the same shape and whatever. And, you know, here I'm sitting at age 54 with my purple streaks in my hair, and you don't want to have a look at the leggings I've got on today because they would blur the camera. It's as simple as that. But that's, you know, that's me through menopause. That's me, the grandmother I've always wanted to be. So this book is my experiences of it, but it's also there to give a lot of hope, because when you're going through it, you can feel dire. You really can. You can feel like, when is this going to end, and who am I, and, you know, all the physical symptoms, the emotional symptoms, and very much for me the spiritual symptoms. Where was I going? You know, I was so sure of my path, and menopause started to upset me. I didn't quite know. I knew I had my tarot, I knew what I believed in, but I didn't know where I sat in that kind of timeline. So spiritually, I was all over the place for a while as well. And that's why I developed a technique to see where you needed to balance your life in any one day. And you know, this little medicine spread, I still do it every day because it's helpful and I do enjoy it. So, what can you expect from this book? It's had some lovely reviews. Even a beautiful psychiatrist reviewed it and said it was one of the best menopause books she'd read. It's a little book, it's not that thick. As I say, it's got some fun in it, it's got honesty about how I felt about certain things going on. You know, reading it back, there were parts where I actually was crying because I remembered how hard certain things were. And there were times that I laughed out loud as well. So there's my stories, but there's also a technique how to manage your menopause in a natural way, and how to work with it so that you can be the spiritual person that you want to be as well. Now, this um, isn't a book that I would angle at someone that really needed a lot of HRT for their bones, or needed to be on hormones. Yes, by all means have them, but still use the book with the mantras and stuff. But it's not saying that you can't, you know, have your medication and still be part of this book, this thought process. But to do it fully naturally, like I did, I believe that you really have to be reasonably healthy anyway, not have really big mental health problems, and just have the desire to do it that way. So it's not, I hate the way women are like, you know, oh, we all do HRT and that's one way, and the other way is like, oh, all natural and spiritual. It can be a mix, and not one is better than the other. It's up to the individual person. This is my way of doing it. It may not be yours, but you might like the stories and you might like some of the techniques. But if you're doing this, make sure that you know that you haven't got any background illnesses, and maybe talk to your doctor first, okay? So, Menopause, A Natural and Spiritual Journey by Colette Clairvoyant. It's on Amazon and Waterstones and all over the place, and I'm really proud of it. But it is very honest, so enjoy that too. Many blessings. Bye now.